Alright, in this video we will try to understand the recent current affair issue on North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We are well aware that from last year 2022 till today, in fact NATO is in news. For those who are reading international relations as part of their preparation, they can tell me that from 2020 onwards NATO in news for different reasons. Well, one important background story for NATO is in news was the concerns raised over European countries because of Russia-Ukraine conflict. NATO was again in the news for a different reason. Now, why NATO is in news? So, NATO is in news because that Finland is all set to ready to join in NATO. You know very well that if a country want to join in NATO, it should get acceptance from all its members. Currently, it has 30 members. Now, Finland accepted by the Turkey government, which is the last country which accepted Finland to enter into NATO. We should remember that apart from Finland, there is one more country, Sweden, is also ready to join in NATO. Now, why we should focus here? What we are going to understand from this topic? We are going to understand the history of NATO and the goal of the NATO, and we will also try to understand what are the past missions conducted by NATO. Well, a question to you is India is a NATO member? I will check your answers in the comment section. Now coming to the point, NATO, which is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, an organization which has its own history. It is documented by European historians and even West historians that Roosevelt in one of his comments mentioned that the time is ripen not for the collective security, not for the collective defense, but a collective community power against the enemies. Now these words very interesting to understand because what collective or community security is talking about? Well, it was not popularized by Roosevelt, but later it was popularized by one more USA president, that is Harry S. Truman. Harry S. Truman, when the rise of USSR was clearly manifested in Eastern European countries after the post-World War II, he started negotiations and famously called as a Truman Doctrine. And in this Truman Doctrine, he put forth the concept of a collective security. Now, what is collective security is about? Collective security, I will definitely touch the aspect. Give me some minutes. Before that, I will explain this. What happened in this Truman Doctrine? In this Truman Doctrine, Harry S. Truman, the then USA president, conducted a series of negotiations with like-minded countries, and he was succeeded in bringing all of them to a conference in 1949. And there they conducted Washington Convention. And in this Washington Convention, they accepted to have a collective security. And they decided to implement North Atlantic Treaty. So what is this North Atlantic Treaty? So this North Atlantic Treaty is a document which was signed to have collective security. Now what is collective security about, sir? Article 5 of NATO doctrine clearly mentioned about what is collective security. Let me give you what is collective security means. So collective security is states or the members will try to attempt to stop the war, will act together to bring retaliatory strategies, and apart from that, they will also try to bring a new modes of joint action. Here I would like to tell you two important sources where I understood collective security in a different format. Number one, that was the United Nations and Collective Security by Gary Wilson. In this book, Gary Wilson clearly stated that the collective security of UN is to deal with peace and to counter the threats for the human rights or human society. Whereas the Palmer and Parkins clearly stated that the idea of collective security is to deals with the threats to the peace. Now both are different because United Nations works under UN Charter, whereas this Palmer and Parkins spoke about NATO in a separate manner. So NATO works with the collective security, and this collective security, in a simple manner, I can tell you that if one of the member was affected, obviously it is going to create a threat to all the members, and all members will try to act collectively. Can you tell me any evidences, sir? Obviously, you have the different missions over the past which involved NATO members. The recent one was the exist of NATO from the Taliban, that is from the Afghanistan. So this is the last recent operation we can say by NATO in 2020. They started this around in the 2004 time under the name of Operation Enduring Freedom. Now, apart from that, they conducted in Iraq, which they got a very criticism from the global countries because of the human rights violation. They involved in Syria, they involved in South Sudan. Right now it is an active mode. Apart from that, they involved in Albania and Macedonia and all the countries. Now, one of the reason put forward by Vladimir Putin for the attacking Ukraine was involvement of NATO at the borders. We found that in recent years, NATO conducting series of meetings with the countries which are sharing borders with Russia. They do have exercise with Georgia. They conducted some military operations near the borders of Russia. So Russia is now having some concerns over the NATO involvement at the borders of Russia. That's the reason they waged the war. We call it as defensive realism. Now coming to the point, Finland and Sweden, after this Ukraine-Russia crisis, they decided to join with NATO. And on the footsteps, now we found this current affair issue that Finland accepted by all the 30 members, and now it is joining into the NATO. We should remember that Sweden is yet to get Turkey and Hungary approval. If they approved from the parliament ratification, obviously they are going to join in the NATO. So that leads to NATO number going to 32. Right now it is 30, and soon we are going to see 32 by joining of Fin, that is Sweden and Finland. So this is the story of NATO. So do have atlas and do find the countries in news, and Sweden and Finland you should remember, and you should have an idea. Now further information I would like to add that NATO established in 1949, which I told you previously. On April 4th, they will celebrate their foundation day, that is very soon, and their headquarters is located at Brussels. So one important thing is it is purely a military alliance. You will not find any kind of economic activities in these regions. The Secretary General was Jens Stoltenberg. So Jens Stoltenberg is the Secretary General of NATO.